Andrew, let's just take a minute and talk about what your thoughts are on handling training aids, what your thoughts are on working within a sterile environment, what your thoughts are on cross-contamination with training aids. Just give the viewers some feel on how you approach this.
Sure. It's definitely something that's very, very important as far as training detection dogs. For me, it's actually not so much about how I actually handle the particular training aid itself. I'm careful with that, but not and I'm not as obsessive about it as some other people are. But I do worry very much, or I am careful to make sure that the other areas within the training environment there's the sense and smell that are on possibly the training aid or elsewhere in the environment. So if it's, I often train dogs with leather gloves, as people can see. I often make sure that I'm touching multiple things. And a lot of it has to do with proofing, again, at the later stages as part of this. But in the later stages, let's say if right now, in the beginning, you're putting the training aid in, say, a plastic little bin, like container, towards the end of your training with a particular dog, those things should be everywhere in the search or multiple places in the search. Or if I'm using leather gloves, I want to touch other things. There should be, if it's dog saliva at a certain place, it should be other places. The big thing is that some of the contaminating issues that we deal with should be in multiple places in the training area. We don't want to just only do a hide in a certain spot or a certain couple of spots where we can pair specific scents with our target odor. Again, that could be, like I said, gloves, human, the oil that comes off our skin, many things, anything. It shouldn't just be where the target odor is, because then you're actually training the dog on that they are indicating on that target odor and then whatever those other scents are. So if they can be placed in random spots within the search area, the dog learns to kind of pick out from that what really matters, and the constant that's always there is the target odor. It's the thing that all the other things can be there and they may find them here or there, but the thing that remains constant and it's always the same is a specific target odor. And I think with dogs with experience, as time goes on, they pick up on that much more than we do. I think often trainers focus on this more than it should be to some extent if you're careful. But I do think that dogs for sure realize that the constant thing is the target odor, and the other things come and go.
An interesting thing, as I watch the training, why don't you talk a little bit about how you handle the drawers when we're going to take a target odor and the dog has made a find in one drawer,
yes,
and now you're going to move your target odor over to a different drawer, and then talk about what you do with the area that you had just hidden the odors in.
Okay. So in the beginning, we're doing most of this training, if not all of it, other than some dry building exercises and stuff that would kind of apply to some of the other videos. But we're all doing all this in what I call the training lab. This one specific area that is set up ideally and is perfectly suited for teaching the dog the behaviors that we want as far as searching and for nose work. The target odors that we use are often very strong. And there's a couple things that are going to be important. We're also going to touch on how to set up that ideal training lab. But when the target odor or reward has been in one of the drawers and we move it, there's still residual odor, what we call residual odor, where the dog can still smell that. Their sense of smell is obviously amazing. So I leave the drawers open where I've just had the plant. That way, if the dog does smell it, they can go ahead and stick their nose in there. They can check it out. They can investigate, and they say, "Okay, I was here, but it's not here any longer," and they can move on. If you keep it closed, the dogs will, they'll have a lot of interest there. They're trying to figure out what's going on, if they can get in there to it. But to me, it's better if you leave it open. They can smell it, they can check, okay, it's not here, and they can move on. And that's what, to me, works the best.
Yeah, because in the very beginning stages, the target odor is there with their reward.
Yes.
So it becomes very clear to them that, hey, I'm looking for my reward. My reward is always with the target odor. The door is open. They can stick their head in there and say, hey, no target odor, no strong target odor, and no reward. So obviously this is the wrong spot, and then they move a very short period away, and there's stronger odor, and their reward.
Yeah.
Becomes clear to them.
It's clear, and they see residual odor here, but after this, like, again, we're using the training lab to set up putting the search behavior on cue, teach them pattern, and give them a clear indication of their response. But once they leave the training area, they shouldn't, unless you want to for whatever training reasons, they're not going to see residual odor. You're going to go out with your friends, and you're going to set up plants, and you're going to go train. But you're going to, ideally, you should know that area is sterile, and there's going to be one spot where you put a training aid, and everything else, there's not going to be residual odor there. So they work through it here, but after they leave the training lab portion of this training, they don't have to deal with it really anymore.
Now, when you go out and train with the people that come to you for training, you try and have 6 people there. So you go to a sterile area, you hide your training aid. Do you hide 6 training aids in 6 different locations, or do you hide a training aid and let 6 dogs search the same find?
I put out one plant, one training aid for all the dogs.
Okay.
Depending on which dogs or where they are in training, there may be a different order, and it's good to, again, because the amount of time the training aid is sat there, it can make the odor concentrate much more and make it stronger for the other dog. So we can use that to our advantage or our disadvantage, depending how which dog we're running in that cycle. But I put out one plant, and then I'm careful with how we reward the dogs, again, because there is a difference between how the first dog is run, nothing's been paid there and nothing's really happened between any of the other dogs. And then after each dog, it's a little bit different, and it's a little bit easier for the dogs, one after the other.
And that brings up a good point, because back when I was working narcotics dogs, we would go in and we would age our training. Talk a little bit about your concepts on that from the beginning and on a little, as how it relates to nose work. In the sport, do they age the fines?
As far as I know, yeah, like before the competitions, there should be a certain amount of set time between when they put out the first training aids and when the first dog is run. I'm not exactly sure how long it is, but it's enough that when the first dog goes, the odor should be collected, because that does have a big effect on how the dogs react to it. We worked a dog yesterday, or my dog, and we just put the training aid out and put him to work. And it was a little bit of not really a deep plant, but it was kind of set back there, and had it set for another couple of minutes, change of behavior would have been a little bit different. So it does have a big effect on how the dogs actually react and how much odor is collected and where it started to kind of creep out and into the environment.
Good. Okay.
We're going to do a number of dog training videos with Andrew Ramsey on Nosework. If you or your friends or you have a dog club that's interested in a seminar on Nosework, you can go to Andrew's website, we've put it on the screen here, and contact him. He gives excellent seminars.